What if I told you that the famous log cabin, the very symbol of American frontier survival, was never meant to be comfortable at all? That for many settlers it was closer to a slow-motion ice trap than a safe haven? The image we've been sold of a warm fire glowing behind thick log walls is only half the story. The real fight happened in the cracks, in the floor, in the wind clawing at the roof, and in decisions made long before the first tree was cut. Today we're going to break down what frontier cabins really were, why so many of them failed, and how ordinary settlers turned miserable shelters into barely livable strongholds against winter. If you care about real history, real survival, and the hard truths most documentaries skip, you're in the right place. If this kind of deep-dive frontier research matters to you, take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who loves history, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Warfront Survival so you don't miss what's coming next. Now let's get straight into it. Why the location decided survival before the first log was laid? On the frontier, the most important part of a cabin wasn't the walls or the roof. It was the ground beneath it. Settlers who chose poorly often paid for it all winter long. Wind was the first killer. A cabin built on a hilltop or open ridge might look defensible, but winter winds stripped heat from walls faster than any fire could replace it. Smart settlers tucked their homes into the lee side of sloped shallow hollows or natural windbreaks. Just a few degrees of shelter could mean the difference between frozen misery and survivable cold. Water access was equally dangerous if misjudged. Too close to rivers invited flooding, damp air and rot. Too far meant hauling heavy buckets through snow and ice during storms. Springs uphill from the cabin were ideal, providing clean water without flooding risk. Sun exposure mattered more than people realize. South-facing cabins captured precious winter sunlight, warming walls and lifting morale during months of darkness. North-facing sites became permanent iceboxes. Why logs alone never made a cabin warm? The romantic idea of tightly fitted log walls is largely a myth. Frontier builders worked with crooked trees of uneven size, cut fast and stacked out of necessity. Gaps were inevitable, and those gaps turned cabins into wind tunnels. You know, the true battle for warmth happened after the walls were raised. Chinking was, honestly, the most important survival task of all. Settlers stuffed moss, wood chips, stones, and any old scrap into the gaps, then sealed everything up tight with clay mixed with sand and straw. This filthy, exhausting work, well, it just had to be done before the freezing weather set in. If the mortar froze before curing, it failed, plain and simple, and cold air just poured in all winter long. So why did sod and earth often work better than wood? Out on the Great Plains, trees were scarce, or honestly, just non-existent. Settlers had to adapt or die. Dugouts and sod houses weren't desperation shelters, they were smart engineering. Earth provided natural insulation and really blocked wind entirely. Thick sod walls, sometimes over 3 feet wide, trapped heat in winter and stayed cool in summer. These homes were dark, damp, and uncomfortable, but they worked. Many log cabins failed, where sod houses succeeded simply because earth didn't leak wind. Why, the roof was the most dangerous part of the cabin. Walls were easy compared to roofs. Snow load, leaks, and collapse killed people. Turf roofs insulated well but absorbed water and could weigh tons when wet. Shingle roofs, you know, were definitely an improvement, but they took time, skill, and, well, you needed good wood too. The pitch of the roof mattered a whole lot more than just how it looked. Steep roofs, they could shed snow pretty well, but those shallow roofs, well, they just collapse under the weight. Many settlers actually had to climb up onto their roofs during storms just to knock the snow off with long poles. It was risky business, sometimes downright dangerous, especially in those brutal conditions. Why did the hearth keep families alive and at the same time endanger them? Well, fire was life, but honestly it was also the greatest threat inside the cabin. Early hearths were pretty crude, often just made from clay and sticks. If a chimney was poorly built, it might crack, leak smoke, or even catch fire. Drafts pulled cold air across floors, freezing feet even while flames roared. Smoke inhalation was common, and carbon monoxide poisoning was a real danger. A working hearth required constant attention, repairs, and, well, a steady supply of fuel. Why fuel was the real currency of winter? Cabins didn't defeat cold, fire did, and fire demanded wood endlessly. Settlers needed massive stockpiles of seasoned firewood prepared months or even a year in advance. Green wood burned poorly and honestly wasted effort. On the plains, folks burned dried dung, grass and crop waste. These were the alternative fuel sources they depended on, you know. If fuel ran out, well, everything failed. Water would freeze, food would spoil, and if the fire went out at night, that could mean death by morning. Why, you know, frontier cabins were really systems, not just shelters. A cabin wasn't just a building. It was honestly a living survival machine. Floors were insulated with hides, straw or mats. Cellars under floors kept food from freezing. Attics stored supplies and even sleeping space. Every inch truly mattered. Winter life was, well, repetitive, exhausting, and just relentless. Survival depended on routine, preparation, and above all, stubborn discipline. The truth about frontier cabins is, well, simple. They were not warm homes. They were defensive positions in a constant siege against the cold. They didn't conquer nature. They endured it. And the folks who survived did so not through heroics, but through daily grinding effort. If you want more deep, honest research into how people actually survived on the edge of civilization, make sure you're subscribed to Warfront Survival. Share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and, stay ready. The next frontier lesson is already coming.